The escalation began with a massive Israeli precision air raid, targeting one of the most vital nodes of Iranian energy production. The jets struck South Pars. This is a sprawling extraction facility that processes vast amounts of natural gas, serving as a critical pillar for Iran's domestic power grid and economy. In modern warfare, a direct hit usually provokes a direct response. If one military strikes its neighbor's territory, the victim fires back across that same border. Curious, but Iran's retaliation bypassed Israel entirely. Instead of aiming at Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, Tehran launched a devastating barrage of drones and missiles at neutral neighboring countries, Qatar, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia. The impact forced immediate shutdowns of major Gulf extraction sites. Crews struggled to contain the fires. Extraction completely halted in the affected zones, and panic spiked across global energy markets. This geographic deviation signals a move away from traditional territorial defense toward a war of economic attrition. The true battlefield here is an invisible economic war. Iran's official military rationale for expanding the blast radius was simple. They suspected their Arab neighbors allowed the attacking Israeli jets to utilize their airspace. This suspicion is rooted in the reality of co-location, a military arrangement where allied forces share physical bases and operational logistics within host countries. Throughout the Middle East, U.S. and Israeli assets often operate out of the exact same facilities inside these Arab nations. Washington exerts immense diplomatic and military pressure in the region. When the United States requests airspace access for an operation, host nations like Saudi Arabia have very little political room to refuse. This creates a strict strategic posture for Tehran. If a neutral neighbor provides a flight path for an enemy strike, Iran considers that neighbor an active combatant. But why did Israel choose to obliterate a civilian gas field in the first place, rather than targeting traditional military bases? Decades of international sanctions have effectively severed Iran from the global financial grid. They operate without access to US dollars or the ability to execute standard wire transfers. To survive, they rely on a shadow barter economy, exchanging raw oil directly for other commodities to bypass sanctioned financial institutions. Here, Iran ships oil to China in return for an arsenal of ballistic missiles and drones. When Israel drops bombs on an extraction site like South Pars, they are doing exactly the same damage as bombing an armory. Destroying the oil field destroys Iran's currency to buy weapons. This satellite view shows the Strait of Hormuz. Iran long threatened to blockade this transit route to trap global oil. But choking this waterway only creates leverage if oil actually flows. It's useless if the extraction source is already destroyed. Once Israel cratered their domestic production, Iran realized their naval threats had lost their bite. They adopted a new doctrine. If Iran's oil cannot leave the ground, no one's oil will leave the ground. The conflict moved away from sea blockades and straight into total infrastructure annihilation. For decades, Middle Eastern conflicts operated under a quiet, unspoken agreement. Combatants deliberately avoided the total destruction of energy fields to prevent a collapse of the global economy. Recent U.S. administrations adhered closely to this rule. Even during periods of severe escalation, the U.S. restricted its retaliatory strikes to strictly military targets, leaving the region's oil infrastructure untouched. That restraint is entirely gone. Today, both Israel and Iran have explicitly abandoned the doctrine of energy immunity. Israel points to Iran's previous attacks on domestic sites, specifically the bombardment of the Haifa refinery complex, as the catalyst that erased those red lines. This places Iran in an exceptionally vulnerable position. The vast majority of their export capability relies on just a few fragile choke points, like the highly concentrated oil terminals on Karg Island. The long-standing rules of engagement have evaporated. Modern warfare is now a mutual race to bankrupt the enemy by turning extraction sites to ash. And as these domestic refineries burn, the global economy will ultimately pay the price.